Buck Showalter always says, let's roll the dice, and I know Geddy Lee will be there rolling the bones on Tuesday night in Toronto as the Orioles return to the Rogers Center for a one-game winner-take-all showdown. It's Game 7, all wrapped up in Game 1. This guy had 3 games over the weekend in New York. He covers the Orioles as well as the Nationals for ESPN.com. He'll be on Nats duty all week here. You can follow his journey out at ESPN.com as well as on Twitter at ESPN. Eddie Matz. Always a pleasure to have him, his sense of humor and baseball acumen back on the program. And Eddie, I tell you, you saw quite the mixed bag up there in the Bronx, and certainly Saturday night, plenty of tomatoes, fresh tomatoes for Buck Showalter on leaving Wade Miley in the game in the 7th inning. As it turned out, maybe all things are well, but maybe this game would have been at Camden Yards had Buck gone to the bullpen a little earlier on Saturday.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. I think everyone who was there was wondering why he left Miley in there, not even for the 7th, I think in the 6th, with 2 outs in the 6th. It looked like he was done. There were some loud outs, and it looked like he was tiring. So, yeah, it was certainly, that was questionable. And then leaving him in there in the 7th, it didn't work out so well. But look, if Brad Brock does what Brock's done with the year, we might not be having this conversation. So it wasn't just that. There were a few other things. Machado ran into a 3rd out, trying to stretch from 1st to 3rd on a single.
Boy, that happens too much, doesn't it?
Yeah, with the middle of the lineup there. So I don't think you can just pin it on Buck leaving Miley in there. I think no one's perfect. Buck, more often than not, way more often than not, is going to make the right decision. Like you said, yeah, maybe they'd be looking at a home game had that game worked out differently. But as it is, they're in the postseason. You talk to anybody on that club, I don't think they care where they're playing. It's funny. After Sunday's game, the guys were doing the whole champagne thing in the locker room.
Did you get wet, by the way? Did a little champagne on you or no?
Yeah, very moist. Very moist.
As a kid, I always wanted to do that, and I've been in the middle of a handful of those. In '93 in Philadelphia with the Phillies after they beat the Braves. I got doused when the Braves won the World Series in '95. I remember just smelling like champagne driving from Atlanta to Birmingham in the middle of the night. And it wasn't nearly as romantic as maybe it looked when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's true. I got some good advice, and I changed out of the good dress clothes that I was wearing before we went down to the clubhouse. But Wieters, who had the big game with 2 home runs, was getting ready to talk to him, and Darren O'Day, being the joker that he is, basically let loose with a bottle of champagne, and anyone who was in the line of fire, including me, took the brunt of it.
Did it taste nice? I mean, as an Oriole fan, did you taste a little bit of it, or? Yeah?
Did I lose you?
Oh, yeah, I got you right here, man. Did it taste okay, the champagne?
Oh, sorry. Didn't quite get it in the mouth.
Oh, all right.
Maybe I should have. That would have been the better call. Anyway, so these guys were, back to your point, what I was talking about was, I don't think they care where they play because those guys were glued to the television screen watching Blue Jays and Red Sox. And the Red Sox made it close there at the end, but the Blue Jays won. And it was like this total non-event after that last shot was made. They were like, all right, we're going to Toronto. That was it. And then done. Right? It was kind of like same thing at the end of the game in New York, right? When Britain made the last out, there was no hooting and hollering and no dog pile. It was just like handshakes. Let's go do what we got to do.
Well, and doing what they've got to do means going to Toronto now. There'll be plenty of energy there, right? They know their way there. They know the way to the hotel. They were there. They know where to grab a bite to eat on Monday night before the game. They got all that down. This is a unique game, Eddie, right? I mean, this is when they invented this game a few years ago, maybe we didn't really take into account how exciting it would be when you consider all the pitchers, one game, the extra bench, all of those things that Buck likes to play the edges on, even though he didn't play it Saturday night at Yankee Stadium. This is one of those games that you examine so much, right? Maybe even more so than a Game 7 because there are 6 games of history leading into it. This is a kitchen sink game. I mean, it's almost like the old WWF. It's sort of like a battle royal, you know?
That's right. It should be exciting. And what I'm curious to see is who is Buck going to give the ball to? You could argue Gosman pitched on Sunday, so it's obviously not going to be him. So at this point, it's either Tillman, who pitched on Wednesday, so he'd be pitching on an extra day's rest on Tuesday, or it's going to be Ubaldo Jimenez, who pitched on Thursday and pitched really well again, in which case he'd be pitching on exactly the right rest. I think there's a lot of people in Baltimore who think that Tillman is the ace and he's the guy, and how can you not give it to him? But from where I'm sitting, I think it's got to be Ubaldo. What do you think?
Wow. For me, it's going to be some combination of both of them. I would start Tillman. I just would. I think Jimenez has been fine. If Tillman gets into trouble in the third inning, you bring Jimenez in. I would have no problem spending both of them on Tuesday night in order to get to Thursday, and knowing that, come Thursday, you sort of kind of get back on to turn to some degree with everybody having a little bit more rest. I like that they have two guys. I like that they have two guys going well. I like that they're going well, right, Eddie? It was a whole different game when the Red Sox came in here and just beat their ass 2 weeks ago. It's a whole different vibe about this. It feels like there's some momentum going into this. And look, if they're golfing on Wednesday, it's meant to be. I won't say that if the game was at Camden Yards, they would have had a better chance to win or whatever. Obviously, you prefer home cooking. But again, I think the atmosphere in Toronto will play right on into the kind of playoff vibe that you probably want. And if you can't work up a little lather and a little sweat like it's Derby Day for this one-game playoff, this is an exciting thing. It's a tightrope. I'd rather be the Cubs. I'd rather be the Red Sox or somebody else kind of hanging out watching these other games play. But I also know that there's something about the momentum of this that we've seen so many times that really plays into the advantage of you being able to play and play well when it matters. And I think the Blue Jays and the Orioles over the last week and a half, they've sort of played well enough to have it matter. This is a great game. And the best part is Geddy Lee will be there, so I like that even better.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you talked about the fact that after the Red Sox, the Orioles seemed kind of a little down and out, and then they kind of turned it. To me, that Toronto series was the weirdest thing, because that first game they lost 5-1, and they seemed like they were just toast. Then that second game, they were on the ledge there, close to losing, and then Scope gets that ninth inning single. Kim hits the home run, and that was the turning point right there. Then you watch that third game where Jimenez and the bullpen shut him out 4-0, and it was almost like one of those. I don't know if you remember Freaky Friday, like one of those identity swap movies where the Blue Jays came into the series with all the swag, and then the Orioles just kind of like stole it from them. And you watch the Blue Jays in that last game of the series, and they were just like standing there hypnotized, like taking pitches right over the plate. And it totally reminded me of one of those identity swap movies. I felt like the Orioles stole the Blue Jays' soul. And obviously the Blue Jays were able to right the ship enough to get back into the dance here. But right now I think the Orioles are the ones who have the greater momentum.
Well, I would say channeling Jim Palmer was Ubaldo Jimenez. It's funny you would say Jimenez, and what do I think of that? I think Buck's been very, very good at pushing buttons, and this plays right into Buck's strengths, right? This whole extra bench and, having extra guys and winning matchups and, playing the numbers and all of that. If Buck goes with Jimenez, it won't be because of a gut feel thing, There will be real reasons behind that. And then having Tillman come out of the bullpen. But I like where they're positioned. I like that they're a little rested. I like that they're getting there. I like that they beat up on the Yankees a little bit this weekend, and you were there, and it was kind of tough, but it wasn't too tough. And Saturday night, things didn't go their way, but by and large, they got to celebrate in Yankee Stadium and shoot off some champagne, which is, I think, always a nice feeling, especially for the Adam Joneses and the Weeders, the guys that have been there, Britain, for a longer period of time that haven't had that chance. And a guy like Buck that's chasing this damn thing like the Holy Grail right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They are exactly where they want to be, and stranger things have happened, right? We've seen wild card teams in the last few years go the distance, right? Like, just because you're a wild card team doesn't mean you don't stand a chance in this day and age. So it's just about getting in there. Once you get in there, anything can happen. So it'll be good theater for sure.
What do you like about the way they're playing right now, Eddie? Give me a scenario. And again, it's one game. It's not even a freaking series. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one game. Anybody could be a hero. I said I think Chris Davis is going to do something dramatic on Tuesday night because it's just been too long. I just feel like at some point he's going to get a big hit. Somebody's going to get a big hit. Somebody's going to be a hero here.
Yeah. So there's a few things that they have going for themselves right now. First and foremost is that the rotation is, it's not like it was in 2014 where they were lights out for pretty much the entire second half of the season, but they have rounded into form exactly when they need to round into form. Gosman looks like he's He's got the goatee working now, and he's becoming the guy that everyone hoped he would become. He might not quite be there yet, but he certainly looks like he's making a leap.
Or as we call him here, Kevin effing Gosman, or as Tommy Hunter called him in the locker room. And the shot heard round Masson. Mrs. Angelos didn't like that, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, and then Ubaldo has been arguably the best pitcher in the American League since he rejoined the rotation. I think last time I was looking, since he came back August 25th, he's third in ERA and first in WHIP in the entire American League. So,
there's your case to start him, Eddie. Right? I mean, it's an easy case to make.
And so he's pitching as well as anybody. Even though Bundy has kind of hit a little bit of a wall, he's still going to give you some good innings. The bullpen, which was kind of fried from all the starters' failures earlier in the season, that kind of caught up with the bullpen. But the way the rotation has kind of found their footing in September really has helped the bullpen. That's why the bullpen was lights out in September, even though Brock had that struggled in that game on Saturday against the Yankees. The bullpen looks much better than they did kind of at the end of August. So I think they're recharged. I mean, the bats have been not good second half of the season, but it seems like they're finally starting to come around a little bit. They're still not crushing it like they were back in June, but I think Buck this past weekend, it seems like he really found the sweet spot. He had Kim in there all 3 days. Of course, it helped because there were right-handers starting, but so Kim was in there. Michael Bourne led off on Sunday, and he had reached base like 6 straight times during the series. So I think all the things that all the fans in Baltimore have been clamoring for, which is let's get a little bit more contact in the lineup. That's why you're seeing Kim in there. That's why you're seeing Bourne in there. Hardy continues to make contact. So the lineup is a little bit more well-balanced than it had been. Scope, who had kind of gone in the tank there, playing every day all year long, seems like he's kind of getting back on track at the end of the season. So that's good. So there's a lot of things to like about the team right now.
I have never wanted to fly to Dallas in my life before, quite frankly, but I do have a flight on Thursday, and I think they're going to win, Eddie. I mean, I do. I just have a vibe that I'll be in Arlington on Thursday.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they'll win. I think if Ubaldo gets the nod, which we don't know yet. I asked Ubaldo that after Sunday's game. He said he didn't know yet, and who knows? Like I said, I think it's either him or Tillman, but Tillman has struggled against Toronto, and I think I'm not looking at it right now. I think he struggled in Toronto, whereas Ubaldo has done well. He got roughed up a little bit earlier this season, but he was getting roughed up by everyone. When he's been right, which he has been lately, he has been able to dominate the Blue Jays, and he did it in Toronto very recently.
Good Ubaldo, as we say. Wouldn't that really I mean, he goes on a tear, and they get to the World Series, and, he goes 4-1 in October. Wouldn't that just be incredible? I mean, you're a writer. We love good stories, right? I mean, we love the story of Kim hitting the home run last week, that if they win the World Series, that will be the turning point, for the whole season for them. I mean, these maligned guys, but certainly no one. This is the worst signing in Oriole memory since the other Davis, Glenn Davis, right? I mean, this was a really long, maligned, horrific signing, and now the moment of truth is here, and they're seriously going to give him the ball on Tuesday. At some point, he's going to have the ball Tuesday, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen. But, yeah, I was thinking about that same thing, that contract, 4 years, $50 million, as bad as it has seemed for the first 2 3/4 seasons. I was wondering what exactly would it take to say, will there come a point at which we say, okay, contract is worth it? Like if somehow they go on this magical run and Ubaldo keeps doing what he's been doing and he is one of the key reasons, all of a sudden, is everything forgiven? And
if he goes 7 2/3 on Tuesday night in Toronto and gives up 4 hits in a run, and they're playing on Thursday, I'm looking to forgive at least half the $50 million.
Creative accounting, yeah. And then, on top of what he's doing on the field, he had a baby a few weeks ago.
And he apparently is a great guy, right? I mean, everybody says that.
Yeah, so he had the baby, and he talked about the fact that the peace of mind that's given him, and he feels like it's kind of grounded him. Not that he wasn't grounded before, and then he becomes a U.S. citizen earlier in September. So, both on and off the field, like you said, it's a really compelling storyline.
Well, we'll see if they can keep it alive or not. You think they're going to be playing? How about those Washington Nationals? This is going to be a fascinating week, West Coast to East Coast for them, and then the Cubs are going to sit around and wait the Giants or the Mets. there are pretty good baseball teams over on that side of the draw. Look, I don't think the Indians and the Red Sox is a crappy series either, but this is going to be some good baseball here. I don't know that anybody really thinks the Nationals are going to win because all the oxygen in the room has been taken up by the Cubs. But here we go, right? Here we go.
Yeah, well, first the Nationals got to get by the Dodgers, which is not going to be easy because even though the Dodgers stumbled here late, they've been playing really well, and the Nationals are banged up. But you look at the Orioles back in 2014, they were missing Wieters, who had the Tommy John. They were missing Davis, who got suspended, and then last week of the season, Manny Machado blows out his knee. That's basically very similar to what's happened with the Nationals, right? They were already missing a couple big guys with Strasburg. Who knows if he's pitching again? I don't think he's gonna, not this season. And then Murphy has had the strained buttocks, as they medically refer to it. And then on top of that, Wilson Ramos, who's been one of their most valuable players this year, blows out his knee.
Yeah, that was the big one. Yeah,
it was, and everyone goes, "Oh, well, there's no way that they can do it now." But I looked at that 2014 Orioles team and think it's basically the same kind of thing. So you never know what's going to happen. Max Scherzer could do his Madison Bumgarner impression and just carry the team on the shoulders. Plus, that Nats lineup is more balanced than people give them credit for. Assuming Harper's thumb is okay, and if Murphy comes back from the strained glute, they've got a lot of balance that they could offset. And I feel like most times, back in '83 when the Orioles won the World Series, the MVP wasn't Eddie Murray, it wasn't Cal Ripken, it was Rick Dempsey, right? So those are the guys that end up coming up big usually in these types of situations. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the guys that are filling in for Ramos, which is Jose Lobaton and Pedro Severino, go off and surprise everyone.
Well, and part of this time of the year is, it really is sort of clean blackboard, right? Whatever you did during the regular season doesn't matter, but part of it is who you're playing with right now. I mean, you'd be a fool to not like the Red Sox right now and the way they're playing right now. You'd probably be a fool to be in love with Cleveland, given their injuries, or even the Nationals, given, as you pointed out, several injuries. But these things trend differently. Look at the Giants. They've been awful for 3 months. They sort of backdoored in. Now they got to fly across the country and play a game on Wednesday. But it's an even year. I've seen what they do. And, they sort of did circle the wagons over the weekend to finally make it in. I wouldn't bet against them either. So, the Mets have had a little bit of momentum the last couple of weeks as well. So the Cubs have gone away and hidden, but boy, it's going to get heavy in that room on Friday night if they fall behind 3-0 early.
Which game we talking about?
The Cubs. I mean, the Cubs they're supposed to beat they're supposed to win 7-game series in 3 games, right? I mean, because they're the Cubs. Now you've actually got to go out there and do this and manage your way through it.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then rarely does the team that is that much the prohibitive favorite end up doing what they're supposed to do. And especially you look at Jake Arrieta, he's a different pitcher lately. I'm no doctor, but he's had a huge workload over the last year and a half, 2 years, and it looks like he's just kind of catching up with them a little bit. So obviously he's not the only guy. It's a very loaded team on both sides of the ball. But if he's not the Jake Arrieta that we've come to expect, it certainly makes them a little bit less intimidating.
Well, the Mets or the Giants will give them a little run over the weekend. I have no worry about that. Eddie, we're going to be following you out at ESPN.com. I know it's the most wonderful time of the year as well. He is ESPN Eddie Matz, and Eddie Matz out on ESPN.com and Twitter. Always great to have you on, man. Enjoy your travels. I appreciate the time as always, and love talking baseball with you, bro.
All right, Nestor, enjoy it.
You got it, man. He shows up on Masson once in a while as well on the pregame. I caught him last week as well. He is ESPN Eddie Matz out on Twitter. I'm Nasty at WNST.net. I'm out in the Bay at Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world where you get cell reception and mobile sites and mobile devices. We're there for you. The morning newspaper reaches your email inbox each and every morning free of charge, all powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Don't forget, we're at Owings Mills, Buffalo Wild Wings. We're going to be there on Monday night for the best seat in the house. We're going to be there for the wing eating competition. Then on Tuesday, wild card action. We're having a viewing party at Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills on Tuesday night for Orioles and the Blue Jays. Make sure you have that one circled. If you're out on the northwest side of town, drop by and see us on Monday or Tuesday. Double duty this week up at Buffalo Wild Wings in Owings Mills. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, anywhere the internet is served. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.